Solar panels, they're everywhere these days, right? It seems like every time you look up, there's another rooftop sporting a shiny new array. It's fantastic to see this massive shift towards clean energy gaining momentum. But as solar becomes more and more common, it's really got me thinking about the safety aspect. You hear more and more about this, even from like firefighters and insurance companies, this growing emphasis on tougher safety standards for solar installations.
Yeah, I think it's a natural progression for any industry, really. As solar expands and becomes, increasingly integrated into our neighborhoods and businesses, the need for robust, reliable safety measures, well, it kind of goes from being a good idea to an absolute necessity. It's vital for everyone involved, the installers, the maintenance crews, heck, even the firefighters who might have to, respond to an emergency in a building with solar on the roof.
That makes a lot of sense. You don't want folks, especially first responders, walking into a potentially dangerous situation unknowingly. So that brings us to our deep dive today. We're really going to dig into the advanced solar PV system by IHS Envirotek. We'll be pulling apart what makes its safety features so advanced compared to a standard solar setup, the kind you might see on a lot of roofs today.
Yeah, and the material we have here really does a deep dive into the tech behind these enhanced safety measures. And honestly, it kind of highlights the potential dangers of not having these advanced features in place.
Right. So what we really want to do today is help everyone understand why this level of solar safety should be, top of mind, whether you're already using solar or just thinking about it.
Our mission today is to break down how this advanced solar PV system really takes safety to a whole new level. And really, the question we want to answer for everyone is, why should this matter to you? Whether you're a homeowner or a business owner or just someone concerned about, the safety of their community.
Okay, so let's get into it then. This growing need for better safety in solar, it seems pretty obvious on the surface. But what are the real drivers behind this push for stricter standards that we should be aware of?
Well, there's a few things happening at once, I'd say. Like, in any mature industry, widespread adoption naturally leads to more regulation, stricter standards. But one of the core concerns, and one that I think should really hit home for everyone listening, is the safety of anyone who might be around a solar installation. Like I mentioned before, you've got your installers setting things up, your maintenance crews keeping it all running smoothly, and of course, those firefighters, they need to be able to work safely around these systems.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's all about minimizing the risk, right?
Exactly. And a big part of that is being able to quickly and reliably bring that DC voltage down to a safe level, especially when the AC power is off, during an emergency or maintenance.
Right. So when we're talking about standard solar systems, the kind that are pretty common now, what are these specific dangers that folks should be aware of?
Well, the biggest hazards really revolve around that high DC voltage that's always present in a typical solar PV system.
Yeah.
So even when the AC power is disconnected, like, if there's a power outage or someone flips the breaker, those panels are still generating power as long as the sun's shining.
And let's be real, the sun shines a lot, especially when folks are, working on these systems.
Right. And a single solar panel, just one, it can generate anywhere from 30 to 60 volts. Now, when you start connecting these panels in series, which is the standard way to get enough voltage for the inverter, you quickly reach some pretty high levels, often between 600 and 1500 volts.
Wow, those are some serious numbers.
Oh, yeah. That's more than enough to cause serious injury or even death. And what's really important for folks to understand is that this high voltage, it's a live threat, even if the system appears to be off.
So you're saying even when you flip that main AC disconnect, it might look safe, but there's still this hidden danger lurking in those wires.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that the advanced solar solution addresses head on.
Okay, so how does this advanced solar solution actually tackle this fundamental risk of high voltage that's frankly pretty scary?
It boils down to two key safety features that are built right into the heart of the system: SafeDC and advanced arc fault detection and interruption.
Okay, let's start with arc faults for a second. We hear about those in like general electrical safety, but what exactly are they in the context of solar? And why should people be concerned about them?
An arc fault, you can think of it as an unintended, sometimes dangerous electrical spark between two conductors in your solar system's wiring. And the materials from IHS that we've been looking at, they explain that these arc faults, they can be triggered by all sorts of things. Damaged cables from wear and tear, or maybe even a bad installation.
Right, so things that could happen over time, like normal wear and tear.
Exactly. And even, things like connectors degrading over time, or even, something as simple as a squirrel chewing on a wire. Anything that creates a break or high resistance in that DC circuit can cause a high temperature electrical arc.
And these aren't just like little sparks, right? We're talking a real fire hazard here.
Oh, absolutely. These arcs generate immense heat, thousands of degrees. It's enough to easily ignite any flammable material nearby, like on your roof or around the system. And that can lead to a pretty significant fire. And this is something that a lot of people don't think about. But those arcs, they can actually electrify the metal mounting system, the framework that the panels are attached to. And that creates a risk of electric shock for anyone who might touch it.
Wow. So it's not just the fire risk, it's also the risk of someone getting electrocuted just by touching the metal structure.
Exactly. And that's where the Advanced Solar Solutions arc fault detection and interruption comes in. It's designed to constantly monitor the electrical signatures in your solar array, looking for those unique patterns that indicate an arc fault is happening.
So it's like a watchdog, constantly on guard for these dangerous arcs.
Exactly. And it's built to comply with the UL 1699B standard. That's a widely recognized benchmark for arc fault detection. And it's also aligned with the upcoming international standard, IEC 63027. So if an arc is detected, the system automatically shuts down the inverter, stopping the flow of power and basically extinguishing the arc.
So it cuts off the fuel for the fire, so to speak.
Yeah, you can think of it that way. And this is important. The system requires a manual reset after an arc fault shutdown. This forces a physical inspection to make sure the underlying issue is addressed before the system can be turned back on. It prevents that recurring hazard.
Ah, that's a clever safety feature. It's like forcing you to take a look and make sure everything's okay before you just fire things up again.
Yeah, it's a built-in safeguard. So, overall, the benefits of this kind of integrated arc fault protection are pretty significant, both for your safety and for protecting your investment in the solar system itself. First, it dramatically reduces the risk of fire and electric shock, so that's protecting you, your family, your employees, anyone who might be near the system. Second, it protects that expensive solar equipment from damage that a sustained arc could cause. And third, by preventing fires, it's protecting your property from potentially devastating structural damage.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to deal with that. Okay, so we've talked about arc fault protection. Now let's dive into this SafeDC feature. It sounds like this is the key to addressing that always-on high DC voltage risk we were talking about earlier.
Absolutely. SafeDC, it's engineered to automatically bring that DC voltage in your solar system down to a super safe, touchable level the instant the AC power is turned off.
So like flipping a switch and suddenly the system is basically harmless.
Pretty much. The IHS materials, they specify that it drops the voltage output of each individual solar module to just 1 volt when the AC is shut down. It's a game changer for safety, especially for anyone who might need to work on the system, like during maintenance or if there's damage to the wiring.
1 volt per module.
Yeah.
That's incredible. We were talking hundreds or even thousands of volts before. How does it achieve such a dramatic reduction?
So the advanced solar solution, it uses these power optimizers that are attached to each individual solar panel. And these optimizers, they work together with the system's inverter. And they're designed to automatically engage this safety mode whenever the AC power is disconnected.
Yeah.
So the whole DC circuit, from the panels on your roof down to the inverter, it all drops down to this very low, non-hazardous voltage.
So it's not just turning off the inverter, it's actually bringing the voltage down at the source at each panel.
Exactly. And that's a really important distinction.
Okay, so if we were to directly compare this advanced solar system to, those traditional inverters that a lot of folks have now, what would be the key differences in terms of safety?
Well, the main takeaway is that the advanced solar system with SafeDC, that voltage reduction is always active. It's built right into the technology itself. Whereas with the traditional inverter system, even when it's switched off, that high DC voltage, it's still present in all the wiring throughout the system.
It's still a ticking time bomb, basically.
Pretty much.
What about those disconnect switches that you see on some roofs? You know, the ones that are installed on or near the solar panels. Do those offer the same level of safety?
Unfortunately, not really. See, those rooftop disconnect switches, they only interrupt the flow of current to the inverter. The panels themselves, the cables connecting them, all that stuff on your roof, it all stays energized at those high voltages as long as the sun is out.
So even with the disconnects flipped, you're saying it's still a risky situation up there?
Absolutely. Because those switches, they don't actually reduce the voltage like SafeDC does.
So someone could still get a nasty shock up there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a crucial difference to understand. Now, when it comes to arc fault detection in traditional systems, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Some traditional inverters don't have built-in arc fault detection at all, and the ones that do, well, it might not be as advanced or compliant with the latest safety standards like the UL 1699B that we talked about earlier. So oftentimes to get that arc fault protection with a traditional system, you have to add these separate third-party detectors. And as the IHS materials point out, this adds extra costs and can make the installation more complex. The advanced solar solution, it has this protection built right in from the start.
So it's like you're getting a more comprehensive safety package right out of the box.
Yeah, you could say that.
So this module level approach using power optimizers on each panel, it seems like that's really key to enabling these advanced safety features. How does this type of system architecture contribute to the overall safety?
It's fundamental, really, because the advanced solar solution uses those power optimizers on each individual module, and it's paired with an inverter that has this module-level monitoring capability. It allows for a much more precise level of control and monitoring of the DC side of the system.
And that's where SafeDC really shines.
Right.
It's able to leverage that architecture to provide that extra layer of safety.
Precisely. SafeDC, it automatically shuts down the DC current and voltage in both the module wires and the string wires if it doesn't get a continuous signal from the inverter.
So it's like a fail-safe. If something goes wrong, the system basically shuts itself down to protect everyone.
Right. And this can happen in a few scenarios, like if the AC power is disconnected or if the inverter is turned off for some reason, or even if those temperature sensors inside the power optimizers, if they detect things are getting too hot, like above 85 degrees Celsius, it'll trigger that safety mode.
So it's not waiting for someone to manually do something.
Yeah.
It's reacting automatically. Can you give us an example of how effective this module level shutdown is in a real world scenario?
Sure. Imagine a typical home solar system, maybe with 10 solar panels connected in a string. Now, in a standard system, even with the AC power off, that string could have, I don't know, maybe 300 to 600 volts DC running through it while the sun's out, and that's dangerous, that's lethal. But with the advanced solar solution and SafeDC activated, each of those 10 panels drops down to just 1 volt. So the whole string is only carrying 10 volts DC, which is basically harmless. And because the maximum number of panels you typically have in a string is around 50, the highest voltage you'd see in the safety mode is just 50 volts DC, which is, still significantly safer.
That's a huge difference. It's really impressive how that module level control can make things so much safer.
It's a whole different level of safety.
So it sounds like the advanced solar solution really takes a multi-layered approach to safety. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah. IHS Envirotek, they talk about the strategy of prevention, detection, mitigation. And we've already discussed the detection part with arc faults and the mitigation of that high voltage risk with SafeDC. But on the prevention side, there are some other really clever safety features built in. There's Safe Start. That's a system that runs automated safety checks whenever the inverter is first turned on. So it's making sure everything is installed correctly and it's safe to operate.
Like a pre-flight check for your solar system.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's Sense Connect. That feature constantly monitors the temperature of the connectors on the power optimizers, and it can actually spot loose or faulty connections before they become a problem.
So it's anticipating potential issues and alerting you before they become dangerous.
Right. And the system also has this built-in temperature monitoring throughout the wiring. It can detect any abnormal heating. And then, of course, you have that module level monitoring we were talking about earlier. That gives you real-time performance data, and can alert you to any potential problems early on.
So you can address them before they become a safety hazard.
Exactly. And that allows for that preventative maintenance that we were talking about earlier.
It's really impressive. It's like having a really sophisticated safety system watching over your solar installation 24/7.
And it's not just the manufacturer talking about these benefits. We actually have some strong endorsements from experts in the field. Ricardo Betti, he's the CEO of All Energy and Architecture. He specifically talked about the peace of mind that SafeDC, along with rapid shutdown and arc fault detection, provides in a high fire risk environment. They installed a system near a fuel storage facility, so they really needed that extra level of safety.
That's a pretty strong testament to the effectiveness of these technologies.
Yeah.
And it's not just, one person's opinion. We have recognition from some pretty big players in the insurance world, like Zurich Insurance Group. They understand risk.
Oh, yeah. And Zurich Insurance Group, they actually recommend advanced solar PV systems with both SafeDC and rapid shutdown because of their ability to really reduce the likelihood and severity of fires. And that's huge coming from a leading insurance company. The system also meets the requirements of FM Global's DS-115, which is another major insurance company known for their tough safety standards.
So the insurance industry is clearly taking notice of these advanced safety features.
Absolutely. And we even have some great testimonials from folks who are, working in the renewable energy field. David Wolfert, he's the VP of Engineering and Safety at EDP Renewables. And he basically said that the level of safety offered by this system is like having an insurance policy on your roof.
Yeah.
He went so far as to say that he wouldn't personally feel safe going onto a roof with a traditional solar system without this level of protection.
Wow. That's a powerful statement.
Yeah, and it really highlights the importance of these features for the people who work with these systems day in and day out.
And it's not just about, large scale commercial projects either.
Mm.
Mercedes-Benz India, they chose this advanced solar system for their manufacturing plant, and their MD and CEO Santosh Iyer, he specifically mentioned SafeDC as a key reason for their decision. They were really focused on minimizing safety risks for their employees and protecting their investment.
Right. And it all boils down to this fundamental fact that you can't just switch off the sun. Even during a power outage, when the grid is down, conventional PV systems, they're still generating those high DC voltages as long as there's sunlight hitting those panels. And that's why having these robust safety mechanisms that operate right at the module level, like SafeDC, is absolutely essential.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that those panels are still live, even when everything else seems to be off.
Right. And speaking of safety and fire incidents, it's worth noting that most commercial building fires where solar is involved, they actually don't originate from the PV system itself.
Oh, that's interesting. So the solar panels themselves aren't usually the root cause of the fire.
Right. But those electrical arcs that we talked about earlier, those can definitely be a contributing factor or even the direct cause of a fire. Yeah. And those arcs, they can come from various things like we discussed, and they can generate enough heat to ignite nearby materials, especially if the system isn't properly protected.
Right. So even if the solar panels aren't the initial spark, so to speak, they can certainly make a bad situation much worse.
Absolutely. And that's another area where that module level safety approach really makes a difference. Industry groups like Solar Power Europe, they recognize that module level PV systems, like the advanced solar system we've been talking about, they're the best way to mitigate both the risk of electric shock and the potential for fires, especially in tricky environments like those agricultural solar installations, the ones that are popping up on farms.
Right, where you have like crops and livestock and all sorts of potential hazards.
Exactly. And those conventional string systems, they just don't have the ability to detect or handle faults at the individual module level. And while you could try to add external safety devices to a traditional system like those standalone rapid shutdown solutions, those come with their own set of potential drawbacks that you got to be aware of. They can be tricky to install correctly. They can fail over time without giving you any warning, and they often need regular maintenance to make sure they're working properly. And all of that just adds extra cost and might give you a false sense of security if something isn't working right.
So it's like you're adding more complexity and more points of potential failure.
Yeah, and it's not always the most reliable approach.
So to wrap up our deep dive today, It's clear that this advanced solar PV system by IHS Envirotek offers some significant advantages when it comes to safety compared to those standard solar systems that are out there.
No question about it. That integrated SafeDC feature, it provides that crucial protection against electrocution by automatically reducing those dangerous DC voltages to a safe level. The built-in arc fault detection, it actively prevents fires caused by electrical arcsing. And that module level architecture combined with all those smart features like thermal monitoring, it creates a truly comprehensive approach to safety.
It's really about protecting everyone, right? The people working on the system, the people living or working in the building, and even the firefighters who might have to respond to an emergency.
Exactly. And it's about protecting your investment in the solar system itself.
It makes you realize that choosing a solar system is about more than just, generating clean energy. It's about making a smart long-term investment that's safe and reliable.
And those advanced safety features, they play a huge role in ensuring that peace of mind for everyone.
So for everyone listening out there, thinking about those high DC voltages that can be lurking in a standard solar system, even when it's supposedly off, it really makes you wonder, how much is your peace of mind worth when it comes to the safety of your home, your business, or even your community? It's a question that's worth considering as you explore your solar energy options.
I think that's a great point to end on. Safety should always be a top priority when it comes to solar or really any electrical system.
Well said. Thanks for joining us today for this deep dive into solar safety. It's been an enlightening conversation.
My pleasure. It's always great to talk about such an important topic.
We'll see you next time for another